Here's the second of 4 poems posted on March the 12th, 2024. I'm Delray Cross. It's anachronism number 4258. It's called Railroad Reroute. And it goes like this. It's a longer poem than I had been writing. I was writing sonnets for the longest time, for several months actually, up until just very recently, in which I started these little poems that start with each letter of the alphabet, 2 words with the same letter beginning of each word. Not in any particular order, but this was the R, day, railroad reroute. The view was verdant, the template of a picturesque spring at this end of the desert. Arboreal, triumphant, giant redwoods would occasionally align with the slow-going train. The trip thus far had been sheer perfection. It was only the first day of a 4-day trip. Arlo conked out quite quickly in his sleeper car just after dusk, just before the locomotive coasted its way into the arid and butte portion of the legendary trek. Chug-chugging, a white noise that, along with the natural gentle swoop and sway of the train, nudged him into such a deep sleep in which, remarkably, there would emit from his sleeping body no discernible esophageal abrasions for the entire night. It was a rarity, this rockabye baby for Arlo in that snug sleeper, until around 6 in the morning, local, when he arose, still with a rare ease of breath, and then came the twist of the neck so as to catch a glimpse of what he assumed would be more gorgeous, only the desolation had such a powerfully draining impact on his being that within a minute he was silently weeping. He could not take his eyes off the sun-swept landscape, and in another minute or so he was sobbing violently, rough, asynchronous gasps such as the man had never known. And the feeling, the entirety of his focus remained locked on the vista as it slowly moved from left to right, and he began to feel the heat that he knew would be nothing compared with the scorching that his hellish view must surely be experiencing. The depravity would crescendo in such a manner until mid-afternoon. The heat rose until he was sweating so profusely, and not one cart of service would arrive for the duration of the devastating and life-draining day in which he could not budge from the same spot he had awoken, staring out as far as his eyes could make out anything, which seemed by the end of the afternoon to be lakes of molten rock, mesas glowing as if by nuclear radiation. At some point was reached a limit. By simple virtue of what his eyes had been taking in for those several hours, the feeling of loneliness and impending death, or worse, got to him, and the heat. So that by dusk of this horrendous leg of this legendary train trek through this most austere and revered country, the land he loved and the country in which he'd always lived, knocked him unconscious. He was spent. This had not been what he had expected. He awoke the next day to see out the same window a river. The train ran alongside all morning, in which fish were flopping, nature was replete, beavers were damming, frogs were leaping to and fro from lily pads. The occasional snake slithered for a while with its nose at the surface. Breakfast arrived and was delicious. Arlo, however, was a million light years from the joy he had experienced on the first day of the trip when he was but a rookie. How would he deal with this? He kept wondering all day, and the next, and the next. It was all that mattered to him. His life had been irrevocably twisted into the gloom of a new purpose, an overwhelming desire to do what? There could surely be no remedy for that into which his very soul had been immersed for that one eternal day.